My father was an immigrant in 1911, ended up sending his sons to Westminster in 1945. Mainly because of my mother's influence, who was born in England, I would say. But he was very successful. His first job was in Petticoat Lane, selling fabric off a barrow. He ended up with his own textile business, which I went into when I left Westminster. Oh, as an indication of the atmosphere of public schools, and then I knew I was going into business, but I didn't dare tell anyone. It was unacceptable. If you were in Westminster in those days, you either became an academic, you expected to go to Oxford or Cambridge and become a professor, or in the army, or in the Church of England, a professional. I mentioned that. Besides an academic professional, you were going to become a lawyer, a teacher, the army, the church, politics. Business was considered a totally unacceptable career for a public school boy. So much did I feel that atmosphere that I wouldn't tell anyone what I would always say, I don't know what I'm going to do, I haven't decided yet. But I knew I was going to go into a business my father had created. My brother, who was 5 years older than me, also went to the school, only for 2 years, because he was older, out in Worcestershire. And he has a totally different impression of the school that I do. He still felt that the housemaster was a bully. He even said he was an anti-Semite. And I never felt that. The whole time I was at Westminster, I never felt as a Jew, any anti-Semitic atmosphere at all. Which again, I suppose, not surprising because of what was happening in the concentration camps had been discovered by the time I was at the main school. One other experience I had here was I saw the first meeting of the committee that set up the United Nations. That took place in Church House in 1944. And in 1945, the very first session of the United Nations took place in Central Hall, right opposite Dean's Yard. But it had been set up in Church House. We very much felt we were at the centre of the world, being at Westminster, because England still was considered an empire in those days. It isn't today, of course, it isn't an empire. But in those days, the empire disappeared post the Second World War. But when I was here in 1945, England was still considered probably amongst the top two powers in the world, America and then England.